everybody. Lance Russell and Dave Brown right along ringside. By golly, we're about ready to go with more big action.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Georgia Championship Wrestling. I'm Gordon Stossel, your host, and we have quite an hour in store for us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Championship Wrestling at ringside. This is Vince McMahon, along with wrestling's only living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Welcome to this week's edition of Mid-South Wrestling Television. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, another outstanding card.
Hey, guys, and welcome back to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories. It is indeed 2025. I am indeed Ray Russell, and this is indeed the next episode in the Memphis Wrestling 1985 project, guys. Finally diving back into it. Been several weeks. Had a few of the listeners asking, when is Gene returning? When are you guys doing more Memphis 85? Well, the answer is right now, right here on Regional Wrestling. And welcome back, Gene Jackson, to the program, diving back in to the CWA 1985.
They missed us, Ray. They really missed us. That warms my heart, and it needs it right now in frigid Alabama.
Yeah, the cockles of my heart here in Ohio as well. Getting right around that 0 degree temperature the last few days. So I can heat things up here with a little fun down in Memphis, Tennessee. And last we left off, I had to go back over my notes earlier just to kind of remind myself of where we were. It didn't take long, but kind of surprised. I was like, wow, we are heading into the month of May already. We're actually going to close out April and look at the first few days of May on the house show circuit as well. So we're moving right along.
Yes, sir. We are getting towards the halfway point of the year. So a lot happening.
Well, before we get rolling, guys, since our last episode, we had a passing in the wrestling bowl. We've had a few deaths here in the wrestling business. Seems to be the norm nowadays. Lots of the elders starting to move on to the other side, if you will. But Sweet Daddy Siki was recently here in the Memphis territory, and he recently passed away in near the end of 2024. Now, one good thing, if there was anything good to come out of it, was that we learned his real age, which we kind of questioned anyway. Now, if you buy what he had sold back in the timer when we discussed Siki's time here, we said, can you believe this guy is 44 years old and how he looked? Turns out he was actually 51. Now, to me, that's still a rough-looking 51. Al Getz thought he looked great for 51 online. I kind of questioned that, but yeah, so Siki was hiding a few years there, it appeared.
Yeah, that makes a little more sense. I'm like you, even for 51, he was looking rough, but I don't know, maybe for a 51-year-old wrestler, for the time, maybe not, but I just wasn't buying that he was anywhere in his 40s. So hate to hear he passed, but right. Seems like he had a full life. Not many of us are lucky enough to reach the 90s. So rest in peace, Sweet Daddy.
Yeah, Sweet Daddy Siki, a long tenured career in the wrestling business, went on to train many folk, including Edge and Christian, of course, maybe the two most famous off the top of my head anyway. So, R.I.P. Sweet Daddy Siki. I'm glad he stopped through here. It was fun times. Questionable booking, but that wasn't really his fault. And, hey, he was smart enough to get the hell out of Dodge.
Exactly. He knew something wasn't right with this, and he moved on. But like I've mentioned here before, Sweet Daddy Siki's a guy who I really was only familiar with from reading magazine articles and seeing pictures of him over the years. So this is one of the few opportunities I got to actually see some promos from him, see him in the ring, get a little bit of a feel for what he was all about. So fortunate that we had this opportunity to see him here in Memphis back in 85.
And no better territory than Memphis to just see random people stop through from all walks of life. Speaking of which, we're going to do a little recap of last episode, which is a good idea because it's been a while, guys. So last week in the Memphis territory, with Jim Crockett recently buying out Vince McMahon's time slot on TBS, Ann Gunkel saw herself an opportunity to try and revitalize the local Georgia Rasslin market, reviving the old All-South territory from some 11 years earlier. And she brought in her talent to the last Mid-South Coliseum to run a joint show there with Jerry Jarrett and company last week with the CWA. So featured the likes of the return of somebody say something about, you know this guy pretty well, Wildfire Tommy Rich, as well as Ted and Jerry Oates, Doug Summers, Randy Rose, Chick Donovan, others also part of that show. And apparently they were even using All-South rules, Gene, as Lanny Poffo randomly disqualified for performing his moonsault maneuver because apparently the top rope outlawed in Georgia, or at least all South. So talk about confusing the local fans, Lanny Poffo and me.
Yeah, me as well. You had this influx of Georgia types that came in, and I honestly didn't realize until we got to the point that we were talking about the Mid-South Coliseum card, and you pointed this out. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that just made a whole lot of things make a whole lot more sense about that week's show for sure. So, but I was happy to see my friend Tommy Rich show up here in Memphis, because he's usually in and out, but we hadn't seen him thus far at 85, so it was good to see him pop up here. I don't know how long he sticks around, but like you say, people come and go in Memphis like a freaking airport, so you just never know.
Never know. And they're here one day, gone the next, and I'm not even joking, guys. You'll see that happen time and time. Look at Cyclops, right?
Yeah, Cyclops might be one of the shortest stays of just about anyone. I'm sure we can find somebody who got out of there even quicker, but hell, it would be pretty tough. That's for sure. For sure. So, I don't know if we mentioned this on the last episode or not, but it was kind of cool to see that friendship still there all these years later. Tom Ernesto was the man who stepped up to book for Ann Gunkel against the big evil NWA back in the Georgia War in the early to mid 70s. And here they are, working agreement here. He brings a good friend, Ann, back in, and she's running a joint show. So that was kind of cool to see those two back together, even if they weren't on screen together, just to know, like, hey, these guys, they were part of history at one point. It was, and, honestly, it certainly was helping her out for her situation. But, let's be honest, Ernesto, we were at a spot here where we needed some fresh faces here on Memphis TV and on the card for Monday night. So this was definitely mutually beneficial for both parties. Well, as we saw on the television program, they never sold it anything to do with Georgia, All South, and Gunkel, anything like that. And so you got to imagine, with all these names coming in the crowd, the local fans were excited, like, oh, we got a whole new influx of talent, guys we've seen before, some of them, like Tommy Rich, and then they're gone a week later. And you got to imagine that's got to hurt business and certainly hurt the fans. Like, what just happened here? Yeah, they're like, wait a minute, we had all these new faces in. We had this fancy new ring. We had some more lights going on. Luthez was hanging around out here. What happened? Where'd they go? Something odd transpired, but no more. Ann Gunkel back down to Georgia. They made their tape, and they're shopping it around down there and trying to get things over. But the highlight of the Coliseum card saw the long-awaited return of the King. After a month-long hiatus, Jerry Lawler was back, coming for the Southern title in the hide of the Macho Man. Unfortunately, their first bout back results in what else but a no contest. Rematches no doubt ahead for the King and the Macho Man. Classic Memphis, no contest. Did you guys really expect anything else really at Jerry Lawler's return? The first match back, we were going to get a pinfall? I don't think so. Never been so happy, though, to see the Universal Heartthrob, Austin Idol, back in town, darling. Now, Idol claimed in a promo leading into last Monday night he was being paid more money than anyone in the history of wrestling. And he was simply brought in to take out the international playboy, a.k.a., as you dubbed him, Boo-Boo Face Bobby Colt. So I wrote here in my notes, most money ever in the history of wrestling? If so, I say money well spent, Jerry Jarrett. I know somebody have a problem with that, dude. I think this was post-WrestleMania. I think there had been some people who had made a little more money than Austin Idol got for coming in and beating up Bobby Colt. But it makes for a fun promo with Charlie Platt from down in Alabama as he's getting ready to fly in from Las Vegas to Memphis via Dothan. Well, the Macho Man Randy Savage, if you remember this one, Gene, I know it's been a while, but he mauled not one, but two of the Battens, both twins, last week on TV. Talk about the war machine. Randy Savage was ready for war. Poor Brad and Mark Batten, they can't seem to get a break here in the Memphis territory. I swear, it's almost like you expect somebody in the office of Memphis to come out with like a FTB shirt, like fuck them Battens, if that was a thing back then. Because, I mean, those poor guys just get it stuck to them week after week after week. And every time you're like, well, that's about as bad as they can do, the Battens. Here you have Savage maul both of them at the same time. It's like, oh, where do we go from here? I mean, really.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I can promise you something's to come here this week on the program with the Batten twins involved. As, oh man, poor guys. It's almost like they got over without Vince's permission, right? That's what it feels like. So I'll teach you to get over, pal. Moondog Rex made his return to the era, a solo act now. Tux Newman, his manager, at least last week. Moondog likely a replacement, I would imagine, kind of like the monster character replacing Cyclops here in the territory.
I mean, I know we've said this about, no telling how many people that have passed through since Cyclops was here, but, Randy Colley, no stranger to gimmicks, he could have been the Cyclops, he didn't have to be the Moondog again.
Just bring him back as Cyclops. That's a brilliant idea. That's what I would have done. I would have just simply stuck him under the hood when he got back. I don't know if he would have agreed to it, but the Moondog gimmick obviously was already over in Memphis, so it might have been a little silly to put him under the hood, but I get what you're saying. Anybody could have been placed under that mask. Also, we finally learned the pronunciation of Jerry Oski. Or was it Oski? I don't even remember.
Oh, I don't remember which one was correct now.
I think it was Oski.
Now that you've said it, Oski. I think he was saying Oski all the time, and it was supposed to be Oski. But
come on now. Summon a gun. Last week, Keith Eric, who returned to the territory, was the victim of Koko's brainbuster, or Ghostbuster, and I've mentioned this on recent shows, but we learned just recently the Ghostbuster, perhaps with a little help from the hit song, but Koko says it was named that simply because when he lands the move, the victims, their souls leave their bodies.
Truer words have never been spoken. So Koko was well aware of what he was doing to these poor bastards. That makes it even worse somehow.
Boy, if he wasn't aware, man, take him out of the ring, my God. And finally, OEO, the Fabulous Ones continue their chaos. Remember that? Continue their chase of the PYTs to get back to those Southern Tag Team titles. Stan and Steve do not need to be singing here on Memphis TV.
Well, I've spent the better part of the last few weeks trying to block that from my mind, Ray, and here right out of the gate, you've brought it back. Damn you.
Well, damn me. And we haven't even got to TV yet. Wait to see what we jump into here this week, guys, as we head off now. Another beautiful episode of Championship Wrestling Saturday morning right here in WMC TV5 Studios for April 27th, 1985. All right, Gene, here we go. WMC TV5 Studios. It's Lance and Dave right along ringside here on this beautiful April 27th morn. And straight to the action. In fact, the bell sounds as soon as the opening video ends. So it's straight to the ring to see Lanny Poffo take on Jack. I'm sorry, I'm having flashbacks of that video cast we did. Lanny Poffo and Terry Funk. It's Lanny Poffo taking on Tracy Smothers. And I did a little time here, and I said 45 seconds into the program. Opening video just ended. We've already got a bell sounding, ready for action.
Coming in hot. We're getting right into the action this week, and I'm not mad at that. I mean, even though it's Lanny Poffo on the screen. I
was going to say, I kind of questioned the go-to for the talent in the ring. No offense, Tracy the rookie, but Lanny Poffo, I don't know if that's going to keep you from changing the channel, but I'll tell you what, when you see moves like this fucking jumping sidekick that Lanny nails Tracy with right here in the mouth, I wrote in my notes, fuck. And you got to know, Tracy, if you knew him well like I did, tremendous guy, but you did not want to piss him off. So I think Lanny Poffo, very lucky, Smothers just a rookie here.
Definitely, because a few years down the line, maybe even a couple years down the line,
I don't think it would be long.
A very, very different response from Tracy Smothers after that.
Well, you notice when we called that Coliseum video cast, Lanny wasn't throwing those kicks at Terry Funk.
No, he was not.
Well,
with that screenshot that people can see on Twitter and Facebook, you would think maybe he had after he was given that look.
We had one user referred to it as Ron Jeremy getting his knob shined, I believe was the exact sentence written.
Nailed it. Well played, sir.
I said, what? Come on. And I looked up. I said, oh, I kind of see it. All right. Anyways, we get going here with the action. Lanny Poffo going to escape a head scissors with a headstand, eventually going to toss Tracy out to the floor. Nasty stomps on Smothers' head as he tries to get back on the apron, even drop kicking Tracy off the apron back to the floor at one point. But finally, Lanny going to suplex Smothers back inside. Tracy trying to mount a comeback, but Lanny is extra aggressive this week to make up, I guess, for his lavender trunks here. Running somersault senton, followed by a moonsault on Smothers. Legal here in Memphis, by the way. Gets the 1, 2, 3. Lanny goes over at 4 minutes, 19 seconds, and a dainty little backflip in celebration.
Whew. I was going to say my main note from this match was, a much more aggressive, intense Lanny Poffo than we're used to seeing. And then he hits that dainty backflip and cancels all that out at the end. So
it's amazing how he does these things. Remember when he taunted Terry Funk with sort of one of those type of things in the ring? Terry's just like looks to the crowd. We kind of motioned for it before he did it. I was jokingly doing it. And Terry goes, what the fuck was that? Right. So, but you looked at this and I added this note today, obviously, coming out of that video cast we did with the Funk and Poffo match, July of 85 in Madison Square Garden. We're in April, the end of April. We're heading into May. So just over 2 months away, Lanny Poffo is going to be in Madison Square Garden wrestling former NWA World Champion, one of the greatest to ever do it, Terry Funk. Here he is just wrestling a rookie Tracy Smothers here. So talking about coming a long way from TV5 Studios, probably not even getting paid here, to work in the Garden in just like 2.5 months.
Mind-boggling. That's what's going to be in the back of my head the whole time when you're running down, like the local cards when he's in Possum Trot, Arkansas or whatever. And it's like, yeah, he's going to be in the Garden soon. Wow.
So Lanny Poffo gets the Duke in the opening match, and then we go off to the PYTs, who invade Lance and Dave's space all up in their area, swinging leather straps around. Lance ordering them to put those belts down and get in the ring. Lance Russell backing up 6 feet away. He doesn't even want to get touched by one of these straps, but Dave Brown holding his ground, just sitting there. I'm not moving, motherfuckers. So the PYTs, both men sitting on the announce desk. Koko even jumping up, standing on the announce desk at one point, demanding the Fabulous Ones get out here right now. But good luck with that. Likely they're not even in the studio. So Lance and Dave up, asking for their removal. Get them to the ring. Get them out of here. So it's Eddie Marlin and Tom Renesto out here again this week. We saw him last week out here breaking up a Randy Savage altercation. So 2 Renesto sightings. It's not a good thing moving forward. Koko Ware, though, sits the leather belts on the desk and proclaims whichever team can get to them first in this next matchup can use the belts. Well, I don't know about that, Gene, but I do know that once again, I feel bad for the Batten twins, who are the opponents of the PYTs here this week on TV, I'll have you know.
I had forgotten, I swear, hand to God, I had forgotten what went on in this in this opening match. So I wasn't challenging the universe when I said, what more can you do to the Battens besides having Randy Savage chop them both out? But if you see this episode, folks, I'm sure they was hoping for Randy Savage to come back because, my goodness, man.
Yeah, talk about peaking here. The only thing I can think, well, he hasn't debuted yet, so I won't spoil anything, but, it's like just a poor Batten twin. All I can say, stay tuned, guys, as the action gets going here. So last week, the Battens, no match for 1 Randy Savage. This week, they get 2 PYTs, and the PYTs don't even allow the Battens to remove their jackets before attacking and mauling the twins. Complete beatdown, complete squash. One of the Battens tied upside down in the tree of woe, baby, while the other one eats a spike pile driver. So we got 4 men in the ring for well over a minute, and then the PYTs exit the ring to grab those straps. And they've commenced to just whipping the living crap out of Brad and Mark Batten. Relentless, nasty whipping across their backs. You can actually hear the wax, totally legit. And they don't stop. Koko Beware everywhere, just whacking them, whichever Batten that is, all over wherever it connects, in the chest, in the face. Just fucking ridiculous, I wrote here in my notes. Ware landing 3 swats to every one of Norvell's. Norvell coming in, calculating, right? Take a shot. Take a shot. Koko's just swinging it back and forth wherever it lands. fall as it may, finally it's Constance, Ashley, and Jerry Oski to make the save, and Koko Ware promising they'll get theirs next.
I was physically cringing watching this. Like, I don't know when I've felt worse for, guys I was watching, other than maybe some of the Moondog opponents in 93 that we've seen. But since they've been back, since the PYTs have returned, I am consistently in every match I see just feeling absolutely horrible for their opponents, namely the people that Koko gets their hands on. But just like you said, Norvell, while they're strap shots, you really can't pull them or anything.
Right.
But he's given standard, belt shots. And Koko's just beating the shit out of this guy like he owes him money or he banged his wife or something.
And he didn't care where it landed. It was just swinging.
No.
He hit him in the face across the face more than once. And I would have just said that would have been it for me. We would have had a problem. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you could just see it like you just see it on the Batten twins' faces, like, we're not getting paid for this shit. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, bring back the Terminators, please. We'll do a handicap match against the Terminators and Plowboy next week.
So the baby faces come out. They run the PYTs off. Koko Ware promising they will get their revenge on the said baby faces before this episode of TV is over. So we'll have to wait and see there. As we come back from break, however, though, I wrote, holy shit, the Batten twins sent back out to cut a promo. They allow the Batten twins interview time. Could they be seeking revenge, Gene? No. They do this simply so the Battens can show off their welted bodies. And there's no mistaking which one was whipped by Koko Ware. Welts everywhere.
Yeah. If you didn't feel bad enough from just watching it happen, then seeing the end results was good Lord. But yeah, when I saw him come back out, I was just like, I'm like, what? Wait a minute. The Battens are coming back out. They're getting a promo. They're going to get some. No. Just want to show Koko's handiwork out there for everybody to see.
It's one of those turn around, go back out, show everybody what you look like kind of deals, because I don't know which Batten is which, but you can definitely tell them apart now. One of them's far more worse for wear than the other. My goodness. Man, that's some nasty welts there on the Batten twins, unfortunately, at the hands of Koko Ware and Orville Austin, I suppose. We go back to the ring for the Moondog, a.k.a. Moondog Rex, taking on Jerry Oski. And lots of stalling, waiting for the Moondog to put away his dinosaur bone here. Noticeably absent is Tux Newman, who is here in the studio, but apparently maybe already abandoned the Moondog. Not really sure. Oski gonna power free of a full Nelson, but Rex remaining in control. Big atomic drop, and then drops Oski across the top rope. Rex then going to grab an un-Moondog-like chin lock, working a wrestling hold. Kind of odd to see a Moondog have a normal wrestling match here.
Yeah, that was my takeaway. It was like, what are we doing? Like, did he not get the note that in Memphis, Moondogs do not wrestle? Like, you're showing that you have a little bit of technique and ability here, Rex. Knock it off.
Yeah, knock it off indeed. So Jerry Oski, finally begins to mount a comeback when, oh no, here we go again. The PYTs back at it, attacking Oski with the straps. That'll teach you to get involved. Going to draw a disqualification interference there. Oski going to go over 4 minutes and 35 seconds, but the PYT, and specifically Koko, whip the piss out of Oski until he finally rolls out of the ring. But they're not done. They simply follow him outside and continue to whip on Oski while Rex just disappears. Meanwhile, Constance and Ashley out once again to save the day. Give these guys capes. They've been world beaters lately, running people off, saving Lance Russell, saving the Batten twins. Lots of saves lately by Constance and Ashley.
And what the fuck is that about? Like, we're supposed to take PYTs serious as, threats to the fabulous ones, but these guys with belts in hand run for their lives from Constance and Ashley? Like, I don't get the logic here.
I do not either, but Jerry Oski gets a little payback from the PYT. They didn't like him sticking his nose in their business just a segment prior, and now Jerry Oski getting a DQ victory here over the Moondog, who seemed to be Tux Newman-less, but the Tux man is indeed here because he's out next with a promo, along with Southern Heavyweight Champion, the Macho Man, Randy Savage, and Randy all up in Lance's face, demanding to be referred to as the champion of the world. Tux Newman then pointing out that he has the Southern Heavyweight Champion, the Tag Team Champions, and next, Jerry Lawler, Monday night, the King will be done. Randy Savage stating, no more Mr. Nice Guy, come this Monday night, Randy Savage no longer going to be a nice guy, Gene.
Holy shit, we've had Mr. Nice Guy this whole time?
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm scared to see where this is going.
Well, apparently this is going to be a rematch, 2 out of 3 falls this time around. They had Lawler beat last time, says Tux Newman, but something saved him. However, Tux wouldn't elaborate just what that something was, but something saved you. You know what saved you, Jerry Lawler. Very curious what that was all about here. Tux predicting 2 straight falls and another win for Randy Savage.
Well, that's a bold statement there against the King in Memphis, but you know, if Randy's been being Mr. Nice Guy up to now, if he if he starts becoming Savage, then maybe he will beat Lawler in 2 falls.
The War Machine, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Do you think that the reason Tux wouldn't elaborate as to what saved Lawler was because this was going to play in different cities and maybe different things saved Jerry Lawler in different cities? Could that be it?
That's a very good point, and it's highly likely. Yeah, sometimes when they say things that feel really, really out of place, you come to realize that that's what it's all about. They can't be too specific because this is aired in more than one place, and those details can change from town to town.
Ridiculous. As we go off, we run down the April 29th Mid-South Coliseum card on the show, scheduled to see Mark Batten take on Billy Travis, if Batten's still alive by that point. The Moondog, Rex taking on Brad Batten. Spike Huber coming to town, taking on what they call here Zambui Express, which is actually a tag team, not a single man, but more on that later in the program. Tim Ashley going one-on-one with Mike Sharp. Battle of the DJs also. We'll talk a little bit more about that, or unfortunately a lot more about that before we end this episode of Regional Rasslin. Dr. D, David Schultz will be back here. He's got a matchup scheduled against Steve Constance, plus the Fabulous Ones going 2-on-2 with the PYT, another rematch between those two teams. Jerry Oski going to meet Lanny Poffo yet again. And as we talked about, 2 out of 3 falls, Jerry the King Lawler and the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Anything stick out to you there?
Well, we're going to see how damn tough Steve Constance is. He's going to take on Dr. D, David Schultz. Oski and Poffo, that's awful late in the card for that match, but what am I missing?
It's a pretty weak card overall. You know, the Fabs and PYTs have been feuding, and they're coming back in a regular match, which is just mind-boggling at this point. In fact, I don't even know if the titles are on the line in this particular match. We'll have to wait and see Monday night. But I did notice Constance and Ashley separated, the Batten twins separate, lots of singles matches just to fill out the card. So even though they're starting to stack the box a little bit in the main event scene with some of the, better talent, Lawler, Savage, Fabs, PYTs. We talked about David Schultz working his way in here, but the rest of the card kind of flat, and Battle of the DJs also.
Well, didn't you assume, at least I did, whenever the PYTs they've strapped the Battens, they strapped Jerry Oski, I assumed we were building towards a lumberjack strap match for Monday night against the Fabs, and now you've got, 3 of the baby faces fired up to want to whip the PYTs, but so what have we been doing with these freaking belts all day if that doesn't play into Monday night's match?
Well, that would require continuity and logical sense in booking. And unfortunately, we don't see a whole lot of that right now going on here. We've seen some talent come in and some leave, but we also see Jerry Lawler in studio with a promo here. He says, people told the King, when you come back, you got to come back mean. You got to come back nasty. And he admits the fans have changed over the years. They like getting down and dirty these days, taking care of scum like Randy Savage. Lawler agrees with the Macho Man. It is indeed no more Mr. Nice Guy, Randy. And, of course, the King wouldn't be without a promo without having a little fun here with Lance Russell. Lawler going to question 2 out of 3 falls, though. He says that's great. It only makes the beating last even longer. King going to promise to finish things out with a big barbecue Monday night as he lets off a fireball out of nowhere, clearly shocking Lance in the process and singeing Russell's hand, it would appear. Lance did not look extremely happy about that. Let's see if he's here after the commercial break, was my notes.
Oh, my God. He was so freaking annoyed by this. Like, usually Lance can play along with anything with Lawler, but he was not freaking happy with this fireball at all. But, man, I tell you what, watching these 85 shows and then turn around watching these 93 shows, week in and week out like we're doing in 93 and then coming back here, there are certain staples of the Lawler promo. In 93, a couple of different times now, Lawler has been like, people want to see the old King. They say, King, it's time for you to get mean and nasty like you used to be. And then hell, every fourth week, he's like, and it's going to be a barbecue down there Monday night. You know, it's going to be a hot Memphis night. He's always alluding to burning somebody. So I don't know. I just guess I didn't notice how much Lawler went to that well over the years, but good promo overall. But yeah, Lance was not happy.
It came out of nowhere. I wasn't even expecting it. All of a sudden, he talks about a barbecue. I'm like, what the hell's he talking? And all of a sudden, a fireball shoots out of his hand, but it kind of looks like it grazes Lance's hand unexpectedly. And Russell did not look happy. And I put here in my notes, right at the end, I said, let's see if he's here after the break. And we go through a commercial break, and nope. Missing in action now is Lance Russell from the studio. I'm sure Jerry Lawler backstage apologizing. Jerry, for fuck's sake. Look what you did to my hand. So instead, we get Dave Brown interviewing Tux Newman out here, who shows off footage of the latest man to join his army. Now, we've seen some interesting talent come through here, but it is going to be an actual larger-than-life name in the wrestling business, as Tux Newman now apparently bringing in Bruiser Brody to the territory.
Oh, my. Now, I was pretty excited to see this. I did know that Brody was going to turn up somewhere in 85. I couldn't remember when and how and the context of it, but you know, Bruiser Brody's the type. He might be here for a few weeks. He might be in and out, one and done. You never know with Brody, so right. It's going to be fun to see how this plays out.
I, for one, had no idea that Bruiser Brody was coming in, so when he threw to the video, I said, oh, what kind of shit are they bringing in next? And when I saw Bruiser Brody, I said, you gotta be shitting me. I can't believe a little coup. I'm sure maybe Tom Ernesto had some backstory with Brody. I'm not really sure how this all played out, but Bruiser Brody is apparently coming in for at least a little bit to the Memphis territory, so going to be very interesting to see how they use him. And Tux Newman, man, he's already got Randy Savage in his corner. He's got the PYTs, but the Macho Man and now Bruiser Brody, how do you even work a stable like that? My God. But yeah, so Lance Russell going to return. His mic, though, not turned on, and he seems to be very upset here. You can't hear what Lance is saying, but you can read the disgust on his face after that last segment.
Yes, definitely. And to circle back to one thing you alluded to there,
yeah.
Jeff Walton, of course, Tux Newman did say in his book that, yes, that Bruiser Brody was friends with Tom Ernesto and kind of felt, you know, he owed him for some favors in the past, and that coming to Memphis was definitely one of those things.
Well, you've got to remember, as you know, we've questioned Tom Ernesto's booking up until this point, even though early on, maybe in the 1970s, he gets a lot of credit for doing some good things. He was also one of the bookers in the dying days of Los Angeles, which I'm also covering on Regional Wrestling now with Vandal Drummond. And so you have Tom Ernesto to blame for things like The Monster. So, being created in a laboratory. So that kind of gives you an idea of why Cyclops was real and shipped here, on an iceberg or some shit. I don't even remember now.
Yes, I've been going back watching some Los Angeles footage and listening to some interviews and reading some stuff, and I've been hearing some stuff about like the Monster, and I was giving me a lot more insight into Jeff Walton. I have to say, plead ignorance to the California territory, all in all. So I've been learning a little more about him and get a little more insight into California and where he comes from and Ernesto's involvement and everything, just to have some insight here for the 85 show. So I've been enjoying that, and it has been enlightening.
That's a word.
As far as that goes.
So Lance Russell returns after the commercial break, and he still looks half hot out here. In fact, he claims he is fed up, although he's going to use that to name drop some heels. He's fed up with the heels here in the company, but no doubt miffed about the fireball. And of course, out comes Jerry Lawler, who once again apologizes to Lance on camera and then begins to promote the Battle of the DJs. We've talked about this in the past. Lawler goes from cutting a serious wrestling promo into selling a softball game. And here he is, he's cutting a promo on Randy Savage. On the other side of the commercial, he's apologizing to Lance on air and then going into the Battle of the DJ spiel. It was scheduled to be Ron Olson taking on Steve Connolly, a publicity stunt done to raise money for whomever Jamie Ray Kimbrell was. Do you know anything about Jamie Ray?
I don't. And when I watched this the first time, I meant to look into that, and then I completely slipped my mind and I didn't. So I I may try to have a follow-up to that on the next one because I know everybody's really going to be hanging in suspense to find out what all this DJ business is about. But I don't know who Jamie Ray is, if I'm being honest.
Well, I felt the name had to be big enough, at least in the Memphis area, to garner some sort of information online. So I Googled it myself, and I wrote every different way of spelling I possibly could, and I couldn't come up with anything. And I just found it odd. We had two feuding DJs from different, I'm assuming it was different radio stations, and we have them out here doing basically a fundraiser, if you will. Money and proceeds going to Jamie Ray Kimbrell, and I can't find anything on the person. So I'm not really sure what this was all about. You think it would be something big, at least in the area, and there's just nothing online about it anywhere I could find. So if anybody that grew up in the Memphis territory or grew up just in the city of Memphis listening out there, if you guys have any information on what this is all about, please send it our way.
Absolutely. Now that the curiosity has been raised, we're going to need an answer, so help us out.
Well, so far, so good. We get a lot of answers here from the listeners, and I'll post it too, just to kind of throw it out there and see if we can get any feedback on that. But as we go on here, we learned that Ron Olson versus Steve Connolly will not take place as promised. Lawler announcing that both Connolly and Olson were practicing in the ring, and Connolly suplexed Olson, breaking his arm and breaking kayfabe. They were practicing? What were they practicing? Yeah. The match, perhaps? I couldn't believe Jerry went ahead and announced this on air.
Yeah, I heard that. I rewound it and listened to it again. Like, did he say what I think he just said? I rewound it like, shit, he did. Wow, that's crazy.
Well, at first I thought he was going to say, okay, he broke his arm. He was in the ring learning, training, whatever you want to. Jerry Lawler could have taken the credit for breaking his arm. But instead, he admits that the two DJs were in the ring together, training, practicing. How do you practice with someone who knows just as much as you, which is nothing, about getting in the ring? And how do you break your arm on a suplex? Come on, guys.
I mean, just off the top of my head, my first thought was, why wouldn't you say that this guy wanted to learn from the best? He approached the Southern Heavyweight Champion. He asked Randy Savage to get in the ring and work out with him. And this crazy son of a bitch, Randy Savage, got in there and broke his arm. And you could have put more heat on Savage, explained away the situation, and not broke kayfabe on freaking TV. Just, again, like you said, just not thinking about this shit, just kind of throwing stuff out there.
Well, this is legit. Ron Olson does suffer a broken arm. We'll even see him in a cast here before too long. So Olson going to be replaced in the matchup by another DJ by the name of Tom Presta Giacomo, I believe is how they pronounced it here on TV. I did a little research on the guy. He started in Louisville briefly before spending more than 25 years on the Memphis airwaves. So he was already in year 5 or 6 by this point in the city, so they should have known him well. So it's going to be Presta Giacomo taking on Steve Connolly, who shows up here with his corner man Lips to cut a promo. I wrote, dear God. When they referenced Lips last week, I said, please don't let it be what I think it is, and it absolutely was.
Only in Memphis. That's all I can say.
Only in Memphis. For those curious, what is he talking about? What does he mean? Well, yes, Lips, an African-American out here, dubbed Lips, in the corner of Steve Connolly. I can't believe these people have gimmicks on the radio, mind you.
Yes, and we're devoting a lot of time to it on the TV show here too. It wasn't just an in-passing thing. We got a whole segment here.
My goodness. Well, we're done with it for now until we get to the Lawler show anyway. Lance Russell going to bring out the returning Dr. D, David Schultz. Wow, is Lips lucky that David Schultz was not in the last segment, because who would have been Stossel number 2 with those DJs out there?
He would have slapped his lips off, I'm afraid.
So Dr. D back here. So he is indeed back in the Memphis territory. He's been here many a time before, hot off his run in New York and the World Wrestling Federation, straight off his recent appearance on 2020, slapping John Stossel across the ears. So the big time, David Schultz back in Memphis.
Yeah, I'm excited. I had forgotten that he, once he popped up, I remembered, I started seeing the, screenshots a little bit before I saw the show, but I had forgotten that, oh yeah, he did get another little run here in Memphis after all that, because I thought he had kind of faded into obscurity and just did like those little NWF, whatever them little small promotions was he did. But I forgot he did pass back through Memphis, so I'm excited to see where this leads.
Leads to lots of swastika promos in the weeks to come. Spoiler alert. Dr. D says he went north, south, east, and west, took them all on, took them all down, including you, Hulk Hogan. But they suspended him. They being us, pal. They say he's too tough. He's too rough. But he's back in Memphis now, looking to slap people around, baby. Time to get down and fight, calling out Lawler by name here. He wants Jerry Lawler, but even calling out the Macho Man Randy. Boy, wouldn't that have been a fight?
Ooh, man. Just a promo battle between those two would have been fun, but then the match would be a whole other level.
Schultz says he wants belts and he wants fights. He doesn't want these green prelim shitty wrestlers out here, Gene. He wants the real competition. I love it.
Leave Tracy alone, damn it.
Oh, already predicting the finish of his next match. Dr. D seems confident that he will indeed win. The unfortunate opponent for his return, Billy Travis here this week. It's Dr. D, David Schultz taking on Billy Joe. It doesn't pay to be a babyface job guy right now in Memphis, does it?
No. This show was not a high water mark for babyface job guys. Good Lord.
Run the gauntlet. Randy Savage, the PYTs, Dr. D, take your pick week after week. The Battens seem to really get the brunt of it, but immediately, to kick things off, a slap across the face of Billy Travis. Nice little nod there. Snap suplex by Schultz, a little wrestling, tossing Billy out to the floor. Schultz going to go out there, scoop Billy up, and run him spine first into the ring post. And then back inside, clothesline, turning Billy Joe inside out, and the diving elbow from the middle rope. Going to give Dr. D the quick win, 1 minute and 24 seconds post-match. Schultz asking, you got anyone else? I wrote, what an awesome heel.
I feel like Schultz probably walked up to Travis in the studio and was like, now you know I got to slap the shit out of you, right?
You ain't going to be like that Stossel boy, right? You ain't go. I don't know why I turned into Jamie Noble here, but anyway.
You take it right, I'll just do it once.
Good stuff, guys. So Dr. D back in the territory. Quick little promo, fun stuff. They don't really reference 2020, but it's all over the place if you just know what you're watching for. Poor Billy Travis. I'd say Schultz was kind of light on him compared to Randy Savage and the PYTs anyway.
Yeah. I expected it, honestly, to be a lot worse than it was for Billy Travis. Honestly, with all the litigation going on at the time and the lawsuits flying around, I'm sure that they were probably like, if nothing else, TV5 was like, do not let the numbers 2020 come out of your mouth on this television and refer. You can allude to it however you want to, but don't you dare mention the words Stossel, 2020, any of that. Do not.
He did mention Hulk Hogan, though. Whipped his ass, boy.
True. But, Hulk's a big boy. He wasn't going to cry about it, I don't think.
David, he's talked pretty openly about it in the past. Hulk used to crash on his couch, and then years later, he felt like Hulk abandoned him in his time of need here, wanted him to go to fight for him for the, keep a job at the company. But I think we talked about it before, like how long was it going to be had he not done that before he did something else to get himself fired there in the national expansion era?
I think Schultz was one of the many people that come out of the woodwork to say they injected steroids in Hogan's ass too, wasn't he?
That sounds right.
I think so.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Rasslin Podcast, where we talk the territories. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Rasslin Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Rasslin Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Rasslin Grenade. And of course, now would be a fantastic time to become a WrestleCopia patron over at Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, Patreon.com/WrestleCopia, where you get so many gifts, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade Show, Regional Wrestling, and the Monday Warfare podcast. You'll also get early access to a lot of the podcasts here on the WrestleCopia brand, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. But that's still not all, guys. You also get at least a dozen digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure each and every month, plus random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon exclusive watch-along series covering many past WWF and WCW events. And if that's not all, videocasts, also now a part of Patreon. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month, guys. I think you'll like the content that I offer, and every penny of it goes right back here into paying the bills. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia. Help me pay some of the bills to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and all of the great shows here up and running for the months and the years to come.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
Well, up next, we get another new Fabulous Ones music video, this time set to ZZ Top's Sharp Dressed Man, Stan and Steve, Sharp Dressed Men. And then from the Mid-South Coliseum, off we go. Joined in progress, the PYTs taking on the Fabulous Ones from last week. I wrote, holy fuck. At one point in the matchup, Steve Kern got a monkey flip, Koko Ware running the ropes, and somehow Koko manages to not break his neck. What a nasty spot. I posted that on social media.
Good Lord. I watched that I don't know how many times after you posted it. And it's just like, you know, number one, like you said, it's a damn miracle it didn't break Koko's neck. And number two, do you think that was karma for all the people he had dropped on his head?
Well, it didn't teach him anything. I'll tell you that.
No, I didn't teach him anything, but it was ugly.
Yeah, it was a good match. Joined in progress, but we get 12 minutes of it. Talk about filling some time here for TV. 12 minutes of action. I don't know if they got anything in the studio, but we did get a quality tag team title match here, which ends, unfortunately, by disqualification after Lanny Poffo going to interfere. So kind of an odd segment to fill in here, but good action for the TV.
Yeah, I would much rather have seen that clip than, you know, had the Fabs there for a studio match and see awkward dancing and Olio shit. Yeah, I'll take the match clip all day.
So we get a Fabulous Ones music video. We get some action from the Mid-South Coliseum, and here it is. The Fabulous Ones cutting a promo up next via videotape. I guess they've made all of their April quota for appearing here in the studio, so they are not here this week. They're cutting another via VTR promo.
Well, yeah, come on now. You're not going to see them in the studio more than once. Probably every 5 to 6 episodes, maybe.
I think it's a little closer together right now, but I don't know if it's going to stay that way. But yeah, you're right. They're not here every week, guys, and not this week. So that would explain why we get so much action from the Coliseum, to give everybody a good memory of what the Fabs can do when they're put out there against some real competition, which the PYTs are. They are tough, says the Fabs. They're from the ghettos of Memphis. Stan and Steve, they aren't stupid. they fight fire with fire. Tux Newman causing issues every week, interference costing them the belts last week, while the Fabs, they have their own special surprise. Their friend is coming to town next week to be in their corner at the Coliseum. I wrote my notes. Geez, I wonder who that could be.
Quite the mystery on our hands here, Ray.
Not for long. Someone to counteract Tux Newman. And so after the VTR plays, out comes Tux and the PYT back in the studio for like the fourth time here to respond to the Fab promo. They say they're going to whip the Fabs like the dogs they are. Koko Ware then giving away the surprise, promising to give it to Jackie Fargo too. So much for a shocking surprise friend here. Koko Ware just seconds later admitting that we already know it's Jackie Fargo.
I like to think that's just Koko being a heel, a supreme heel, but I'm sure that was just him being forgetful and realizing, oh shit, that was supposed to be a surprise. And this is live.
We're live, pal, and we can't go back. And now we know Jackie Fargo in the corner of the Fabs. It's going to be interesting to see what plays out there if Jackie Fargo gets his hands on Tux Newman. Right now, though, we go back to the ring to see Constance and Ashley, this time in the ring. They're going to be wrestling here, taking on Jerry Bryant and the masked Bolo. Good to see Bryant back on TV, his hair growing back in as well from Eddie's Army. Of course, the Bolo name taken straight from Booker Tom Ernesto's past. He had teamed with Al Lovelock, the original Great Bolo. Tom used the name Mighty Bolo before he became an assassin, and he's giving it here to this job guy. We get the match going. Constance delivering multiple body slams to both opponents, basically his only move, sending the job guys out of the ring to regroup. And here come the PYTs again. Maybe a minute of action here. The PYTs, to me, just a minute late. They should have been in here as soon as the bell rang, but it is another disqualification this week. Normally, this would have been redundant, sending the PYTs out for yet another attack, but in this case, it may be the best match Constance and Ashley have ever had on TV.
In this case, in my eyes, it was a babyface turn for Koko and Norvell.
Well, they taste the leather straps, do Constance and Ashley here. PYT's promised revenge, and I guess this should teach them, Constance and Ashley, to stay out of other people's business because the lashes are laying in once again, whipping away. It does go on forever, though. It just doesn't seem to stop. I don't know if that was a rib or what it was. Finally, Ernesto and Marlon out again to break things up. And Bolo and Bryant enjoying their TV time, just standing there watching in the ring. The entire time I kept waiting for the PYTs to turn around and beat them too, but it never happened.
Well, you said this went on an awkwardly long time. Even though this happened in 1985, I like to think I willed that to happen with my mind because every time I thought they were about to stop, I was like, no, keep going, beat their ass, run them out of here.
When I saw them do it to Oski earlier, I honestly thought they're not going to come out and do this again later, but sure enough, they do, and I can't complain this time around, but you're right now. You think about it, they've lashed 5 guys on this show. All of these guys should be seeking revenge, but they don't really play into the Mid-South Coliseum at all.
Crazy. I mean, you think even though we didn't announce it earlier, this would have been a prime time for Eddie Marlin to, come out there and be like, you know what? They've been out here. They've been whipping these guys with these belts. We got a bunch of guys upset. You know what? We're going to have them at ringside. They're going to have belts. And if they get out of the ring, they're going to get it right back. And boom, we got us a damn gimmick on our match. And we've made all this make sense. But apparently Tom Ernesto is not worried about making all this make sense. So,
well, I feel like he's booking out of order because if I recall, it's just been a few weeks since we had a lumberjack with straps match between these two teams. So wouldn't it have made more sense to do this prior to that match?
Yeah, you would have set that match up with all this, and it's like now we're doing it 2 weeks after the match. So, and then I've always thought it was redundant, and Memphis has done this quite a bit over the years. I've been noticing this going through results for the Doug and Tommy show where you'll have a big gimmick match, and in the following week, you'll go back to a regular match. It's like, How do you go backwards? How do you go from this big... I was going over some results with them, and they had a freaking War Games in like USWA in 92, a big War Games cage match, and the next week they had a regular tag match with the same bunch of guys. I was like, how? What are we doing? But
and it seems to be, no matter the booker, it seems to be that way.
Yeah, it's not limited. I mean, we like to pick on Ernesto, but it's not just him. It's, it's like we always say, Memphis, that's all you can really say is just, it's a different animal.
Well, we come back from commercial break, just 5 minutes left in the show, and here he is. Been waiting all episode for Mr. Kareem Muhammad, one half of the Zambui Express, or He was the entire Zambui Express when they ran the card down earlier, but it is Kareem Muhammad, a.k.a. Ray Candy, who snatches the mic from Lance Russell quickly here. He was scheduled to compete, but we're out of time, so no match here. Boy, that was worth getting it changed into those fatigues for, I suppose.
I feel like Ray Candy showed up wearing those fatigues, but I may be wrong.
Possible. I can see that. I heard a story or two from Bob Roop involving Ray Candy. Just some fun stuff. A nice guy, good guy. Another big name added to the heel side. They're getting really heel heavy here with some top talent, though.
They really are. They've got some heavy hitters on the heel side, and whew, I mean, as we've seen today, when Constance and Ashley have been your saviors all day until they get their ass whipped at the end, it's hard times on the babyface side.
Hard times, baby. So Kareem Muhammad has now arrived along with Dr. D. David Schultz on the same program. Unfortunately, Muhammad, we're out of time. No match for you, buddy. If there was indeed a match scheduled, I'm sure the babyface was happy, though, to collect that $10 to run down to the corner bar or whatever the case may be. As we roll on later in the evening, April 27th also, Jonesboro, Arkansas. Jerry Lawler returns to Jonesboro along with the PYTs, Randy Savage, the Batten twins, and Kareem Muhammad immediately on the house shows.
I feel like maybe that extra time that the PYT spent beating on Constance and Ashley was the couple of minutes they had scheduled for Kareem Muhammad's match.
They probably went back, oh, sorry, Ray. And Ray said, that was all right. That was fun watching you whip those boys. So, I didn't even have to break a sweat today on the program. And Kareem Muhammad is back. We're going to get more from him. It's going to be some fun stuff coming with Kareem Muhammad in the weeks to come, I promise you. But right now, we go off to April 28th and the Jerry Lawler Show. And we kick it off this week with the viewer mail segment. Writing in, Jamie Hilliard of Memphis, Tennessee, asks, what an interesting question, how old is Lanny Poffo? And who is his toughest opponent? They also included a picture drawn of Adrian Street to send into the King, drawn on loose leaf paper, by the way. Unfortunately, the King says Lanny refused to reveal his age or speak with the Lawler Show. But young Jamie does receive a t-shirt for her troubles, hopefully with no vulgarity on it.
Let's hope so. But, I mean, I'm sitting around and I wonder how old Lanny Poffo is and who's his toughest opponent. I guess I should ask Jerry Lawler.
Well,
why would I think Jerry Lawler would know or could get the answer?
Apparently, Lanny wasn't going to tell anyone. So his toughest opponent, that could be anyone, but his age, very peculiar. Maybe Jamie had a crush on Laniel. I'm not really sure how that all played out. But up next, we have a story on a 73-year-old man, a trick shot artist with a basketball. We see some of his trick shots shown here. I thought this guy was pushing 100. I thought that's what the story was going to be when I saw this clip. But my God, did everyone age that awful back then? This guy's 70. He looks about 120.
Yeah, I was the same way. I did not expect that to be where this story was going, that he's a trick shot basketball. A trick shot artist with basketball. I thought it was just be like, hey, look, this guy hasn't died yet. Good for him.
You think he's still alive?
Well, I don't know, because I honestly, when Sweet Daddy Siki popped up on my screen, I was absolutely shocked to go online and find out that he was still alive.
Right.
Back when he was still alive. So who knows? Maybe he is. Maybe he's still out there shooting b-ball as we speak. This 73-year-old trick shot artist from 1985.
Phenomenal. One of the original Globetrotters, perhaps. I'm not even sure. Oh, and up next, we spend most of the rest of the episode of the Lawler Show hard selling the Battle of the DJs. Ron Olson versus Steve Connolly was the original matchup with Lips in his corner. Let's not forget, they have to keep putting that over. We get a Rocky-themed training video of both of the DJs at the gym at the same time. Steve Connolly, the bearded heel, cutting a promo here before being interrupted by Connolly in the segment. Then we cut back to the Lawler Show in the studio. Olson actually shows up in the arm cast, talking about breaking it, taking a suplex while training, breaking it while taking a suplex from his upcoming opponent, mind you. And now he's being replaced by Louisville's Tom Presta Giacomo. So back and forth banner from the DJs here on the Lawler Show.
So we've determined that these are usually taped before the live show, right?
Right.
So do you think that this guy that's on his own, not knowing any better, said this on the Lawler show, and Lawler's like, screw it, just double down on it and say it on TV, or we just didn't give it that much thought?
I could see it being both. I really could. Yeah, I think these were taped. These things like this were taped. They've alluded that they are taped right before, as you said, the Channel 5 stuff, the live wrestling on Saturday mornings. And since they were both in the studio for Saturday morning TV, it seems very likely this was taped prior to that. So it could very well be. Well, you guys already kind of broke the fourth wall, so who really gives a shit? It's just DJs anyway.
Nobody cares.
Well, this is what caught my ear. I wrote in my notes here, get this, the referee, and I had to go double check to make sure that it was the Reggie White, but the referee for this Battle of the DJs is going to be Reggie White, who was then part of the USFL Memphis Showboats football team, but later would play, very famous football player for the NFL, played for the Eagles, later the Packers. All of this to raise money once again for Jamie Ray Kimbrell. Boy, I hope I don't know who they are, but they certainly were very fond of this character. I don't know if it was somebody from the radio program. I'm not sure who it was, but their name pops up quite often here. Wow,
Reggie White, the only one that was relevant in the long run from all these people. So that's an interesting part that did they even mention that on the live TV?
No, just mentioned here kind of in passing because then he wasn't even a NFL superstar. I think he went on to be part of a Team Lawrence Taylor at WrestleMania, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Good call. That's definitely true. Alongside Mongo.
That's right, baby doll. So, so we have that going down, Battle of the DJs this Monday night, but also the King going to throw to what he calls a Steve Constance music video, even though it's actually Constance and Ashley. They're doing this here to give a little hype for Constance leading into his match with Dr. D tomorrow night.
The Steve Constance memorial video here on the Jerry Lawler Show.
And of course, we have just a little bit of time left on the program, so why not play the Forever Young music video once again of the King? I wrote, why?
I'll tell you why not, because it's the Drizzling Shits, and that song is the worst song I've ever heard for a wrestling music video. Oh, my God.
Clearly, the King loves it, right? It's had to have been his, hey, why don't you make a new music video with set to this for, of course, of myself.
Yeah. More of that one. Wow.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if they continue to play it week after week, like Freeze Frame Terry Taylor, to see how much it breakout music video of the year here in 85. Right now, though, we move on to Monday night, Mid-South Coliseum, April the 29th, of course, Memphis, Tennessee. We're going to check out the card now. Billy Travis scoring a win over Mark Batten. I wrote, geez, this guy cannot catch a break.
I mean, because Billy Travis up to this point is just being used as a straight up jobber, and he's beaten Mark Batten.
I have to imagine.
He's a fellow babyface.
Yes, I have to imagine Mark Batten had to be the one that was beaten to a pulp by Koko, and he walks into the Coliseum that day, and they say, well, you can't go over. Look at you. Nobody's going to believe you go over. So, unfortunately, he takes the loss to Billy Travis here. Also, it looks like the Moondog, Rex, may already be gone from the territory, because in his place, they call back down J.R. Hogg to replace Moondog for the night, and even Brad Batten suffering a loss to the one-night-only J.R. Hogg.
He loses to the stand-in. Well, it's just as well, because I'm pretty sure he was going to lose to Moondog Rex, so might as well lose to J.R. Hogg.
So we know Steve Constance has a matchup coming with Dr. D, so Tim Ashley out here, one-on-one, scoring a win over Mike Sharp.
Oh, Mike, that's not a good sign, brother.
No, it's not, especially when they continue to flood in with the heels here in the territory. The writing's on the wall for Iron Mike at this point.
Yep. I would say hit the showers, but he would be happy to hear that. So.
Well, last week, I think it was Oski and Lanny Poffo who had that disqualification with the moonsault spot. This week, we see them in the ring. No contest. I simply wrote, what the fuck? You're telling me one of these guys can't go over here?
I mean, we just talked about how we're hurting for baby faces. So we need to be getting Oski over, whatever. I mean, we need to be getting him over. We teased in his sit-down interview with Jerry Lawler on the Jerry Lawler Show that he wants to be in the mix for the Southern Heavyweight title, and he's going to a draw with freaking Lanny Poffo. What the hell?
Yeah, I really don't understand the booking here. They're kind of protecting Lanny, maybe on the behest of Randy Savage. I don't know if he had that kind of pull here in Memphis, but I don't know. Well, it's a very peculiar finish. No contest. Jerry Oski, Lanny Poffo see what they do next week. But right now, it's the return to the Coliseum of one Dr. D, David Schultz, who scores a win over Steve Constance. Picture myself back in 85, sitting somewhere in those stands, just cheering on Dr. D here.
I would have loved to have seen Dr. D beat down Constance and Ashley the way Savage did both the Battens here. But
oh, good call.
No such luck.
Maybe we'll see Dr. D beat down the Battens next week on TV. You never know.
I would not doubt that whatsoever.
Well, he didn't have time to wrestle on the television program, but he is here in the ring as part of the Mid-South Coliseum show, talking about Kareem Muhammad, who they refer to as Zambui Express, back on Saturday morning. However, it's Kareem scoring a win, not over Spike Huber as advertised, but rather David Haskins subbing in here, who Spike Huber decided he wasn't going to make the drive.
Them damn Indianapolis people, they're just not dependable.
Well, he saw what happened to Bobby Colt, and by damn Dick the Bruiser, none of my people are going down there to do a job. I know that was an awful Dick the Bruiser impression, by the way, but the second one I've heard this week.
I was going to say, man, I know somebody could use you for a commercial. Talk to me after this is over.
The Fabulous Ones coming to town. They are here, not by videotape, but rather actually in the ring. Going to score a win over the PYTs. That's the only information I have for the bout. So I have to imagine it was non-title. We know there was no stipulations involved, and we've seen various disqualifications, not to mean they couldn't have that again. It is Memphis after all, but somehow, some way the Fabs go over on the PYTs here.
And we have to assume Jackie Fargo figured in some kind of way based on the spoiler from Koko. So
good call there. I forgot. I didn't even write it in my notes. Jackie Fargo was in the corner of the Fab, so obviously you would hope that he played into the finish somehow.
Yeah, surely. I just hate, man, I would have loved if our pre-taped Fabs promo, they would have pitched to a pre-taped Jackie Fargo sitting on the ugly couch promo. That would have been amazing, but no, we didn't get one.
Oh. The Fabs go over. We'll have to see if Jackie Fargo sticks around or if he heads back to Barbados or wherever the fuck he was a few weeks ago. Up next on the card, it is time. Battle of the DJs. Special attraction bout. Now it was supposed to be Ron Olson, remember, broken arm. So it is Tom Presta Giacomo, and I hope that's the last time I have to say that name. Presta Giacomo, there it is, did it again, taking on Steve Connolly with lips. I don't know why that makes me laugh every time. So I don't have results to this. I can't imagine there was a winner. Obviously, they were doing this for, I guess you could call it charity. Of course, all proceeds, or some of the proceeds, going to Jamie Ray out there somewhere.
I can't imagine a guy who works for the radio for a living couldn't come up with some kind of stage name that would be easier for people to say constantly on the radio than Presta Giacomo, or however the hell you say that.
Well, his real name was Smith, probably, right? So he's like, what can I do to be a complete asshole out here?
Where no one could ever say or spell this name.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as clever as lips, but it is what it is.
Tommy P or some shit. I don't know.
There you go. Well, Battle of the DJs, no result there. If you guys were there in attendance that week or even have the results from the local newspaper, the Appeal, let us know. I'm curious to see how that played out and what they did. I'm assuming there was no actual pinfall. I'm not going to put one radio DJ over another, I wouldn't think. Heaven forbid. We can't even do that in the wrestling business.
Yeah, exactly. We can't let Lanny Poffo lose. We're just less a radio DJ.
Well, what are we doing here? It wouldn't be Memphis without at least two schmozzes, so I have to imagine we had a schmoz there in the DJ matchup, because in the main event, it was Jerry the King Lawler defeating Southern champion Randy Savage, 2 out of 3 falls. Now, I don't have the results of those falls, but in upcoming house shows, we're going to see the same 2 out of 3 fall bouts ending in a disqualification due to run-in. So I have to imagine, even here in Memphis, though I don't have a DQ listed, this one ended the same because there was no title change.
Yeah, so the heel champions in both matches lost, but neither of the titles changed. So,
and I don't want to spoil what happens here because I don't know that it happened in Memphis. It's going to happen on another one of these house shows here in a moment, so we'll talk about that as we roll on. But just before we do, looking at this card, very light card, you do see them starting to push some of these new heels, Kareem Muhammad, David Schultz. So looking good there, but unfortunately, where do they go from here? I'm looking at the entire roster. They have nobody to wrestle besides the King.
Exactly.
Not one-on-one.
And at very least, if you'd have put Oski over, he could be the next victim of Schultz or Kareem Muhammad, either one. But now what does it mean if they beat him? He couldn't even beat freaking Lanny Poffo.
Spike Huber didn't even show up, and he was next in line as far as the talent goes on the pecking order, really. And he's not even coming to the territory after all, it would seem. We go on. We're going to see who does show up April 30th, the following night, Tuesday, Louisville Gardens. David Haskins over J.R. Hogg. Tim Ashley defeating Bobby Colt, so you know who rode down together here. It's Kareem Muhammad over David Haskins, so Haskins doing double duty here in Louisville. Very light card. Steve Constance going to do another job over Dr. D. Jerry Oski teaming with the Fabulous Ones, 6-man tag team match, scoring a win over Lanny Poffo in the PYTs, and in the main event, another 2 out of 3 fall matchup, leading to Jerry Lawler scoring the final fall over Randy Savage after outside interference from Dr. D. David Schultz attacking the King.
Oh, I like it. All right. The only way Jerry Oski can get a win over Poffo is to team with the Fabs, but I guess whatever gets it done, right?
Well, I don't mind this if it was a little later in the feud. Remember, Jerry Lawler just returned from being put out, almost nearly career ended at the hands of the Macho Man. We're a week back into the feud, and now Dr. D's being factored in. That's a little quick for me.
It is, but okay, here's something I don't understand. And this is hopefully not trailing off too much in another direction, but we just teased that Bruiser Brody is coming in to be a part of Tux Newman's. Why would you not? Can you imagine Lawler and Brody against Savage and Dr. D? Holy shit, that would have been amazing. Now, is this going to be another one of these Sweet Daddy Siki deals where maybe Brody's going to show up and be like, fuck Tux Newman, I don't want to team with him? Lawler came to Puerto Rico one time and he didn't stab me, so I want to be his partner? I don't know, but it seems weird to me when we've got so many heels stacked up and no baby faces, and now we're going to bring Brody in as a heel too?
Yeah, had they not done that with Siki, well, it's Memphis. They could do it twice and get away with it, I suppose. But I was going to say, had they not just done that with Siki, it would be perfect to bring Brody in because he's an outlaw as it is, right? He's his own man anyway. He doesn't necessarily need a manager. So I could see Brody kind of going rogue and you don't tell me what to do. You can't tell me I'm not allowed to challenge for the Southern title. I'm the big dog here. So you could see lots of reasons why Brody could go babyface, even if Lawler couldn't necessarily trust him. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, Grasshopper, so to speak. So you're right. I didn't even think of that because Brody makes a perfect heel in this story, but Lawler's got plenty of heels to work with. We do need another babyface right now, even if it's for a week or two.
And that may be exactly what happens, folks. I don't know. We're not just trying to look smart by laying out a scenario that's going to happen. But as we both mentioned earlier, we're not looking ahead to try not to spoil things. And like I said, I did remember seeing Brody in Memphis, but I just couldn't remember when, but I knew it was in 85. I know, and I will spoil this, I do remember him being in the ring against Lawler, so clearly what we just pitched doesn't happen. At least it doesn't happen immediately anyway, right. So I don't know what they're thinking here, but we better get on the phone and start rounding up some freaking baby faces pretty darn quick. And to circle back to something else, Moondog Rex no-showing, I assume he would be headed off to Mid-South land right now, right? In 85?
Yeah, Eddie Gilbert goes over there, and he's going to wind up becoming sort of a general over there as well, and managing Moondog Rex, who's going to come in as the Nightmare, then winning the title and becoming the Masked Champion. A lot of thought put into that name. And even after he loses the belt, I believe he's just back to the Nightmare. I don't think, you think after you lose the belt, you'd be the challenger. But no, he's Randy Colley. It was such an odd choice in 85 for Bill Watts to give him the North American title, just an odd fit to me in that era in the Mid-South territory as the top champion.
Oh, absolutely. Because, he was always, a strong, second fiddle to somebody as a tag team, or even if he was leading the tag team, but he was a tag team guy to come in and be literally the champion, billed as the champion. Felt really strange, but maybe that's how they lured him away from Memphis down there. It's like, well, come down here. We'll put the North American title on you. And he's like, on my way, because I'm going to be wrestling some shit here in Memphis right now. So,
well, Rex is on his way out of the territory. Like you said, just right around this time, he will pop up over there in Mid-South, kind of following Eddie and Dutch down there, it would seem. And wise decision. I think he made a lot more money working for the Cowboy than he would have stayed here working the mid-card for Memphis they didn't really have. And with David Schultz and Randy Savage and Kareem Muhammad now here and Brody coming in, talk about being lost in the shuffle. It's not like they had anything for Rex to begin with.
No, not at all. I'm sure he saw that writing on the wall and just headed on down to Mid-South. And like you say, it was a good move for him. So again, we got to figure out some baby faces and fast.
Well, with that Louisville show closing comes the end of April. We move into the month of May now. Evansville, Indiana, Wednesday night, May the 1st. Going to see Jerry Lawler and Randy Savage, 2 out of 3 falls. And once again, ending with a Dr. D run-in in the 3rd fall. This video footage is actually out there on the Evansville feed, so you can actually go back and watch how this went down in some localized promo things that we may be airing on YouTube in the upcoming weeks, so stay tuned for that. So Dr. D, David Schultz, running in, doing this, but what's very peculiar, if you notice, Gene, we're not on a bicycle with this storyline. It's immediate, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The same thing's happening in every city the same week, each and every night.
Yeah, that's very true. Good point.
Just a very interesting, it really caught me off guard to see the same story playing out every night in the main event scene, but likely for good reason. We'll have to wait and see what that might be as we go on Thursday night, May the 2nd, Nashville Fairgrounds. Some of the matches going to see the Fabs versus the PYTs, no DQ. Oski taking on Bobby Colt. Don't know if he showed up or not like he was doing anything else. Mark Batten versus Dr. D. Oh, poor Mark Batten taking on Dr. D, David Schultz. It's supposed to be Brad Batten against Mr. Wrestling, Tommy Gilbert, but we didn't see him on TV this week, nor was he at the Coliseum. So you have to wonder, has Tommy left as well?
The way he abruptly left after his last TV match, I didn't think we would see him around here much longer, and I think he missed some shows that he was scheduled on that week. So I thought we were done with Mr. Wrestling, honestly.
Well, it's very possible. Tracy Smothers going one-on-one with Kareem Muhammad and Billy Travis taking on the Masked Invaders. So it looks like PYTs and Fabs headlining there Thursday night at the Nashville Fairgrounds. Pretty light card underneath, no doubt.
Oh, yeah, and it looks like Haskins got enough of wrestling Kareem Muhammad at the beginning of the week and is like, no, somebody else can do that in Nashville. So Tracy Smothers drew the short straw.
He did. One more piece of, we got two shows on May the 3rd, Friday night. First in Blytheville, Arkansas, the American Legion Arena. Going to see Jerry Lawler, Constance and Ashley, Mike Sharp, Lanny Poffo, and of course Randy Savage there in Blytheville. The King returning to Arkansas.
Yeah, we might need to turn Iron Mike Sharp babyface here.
Ooh, that would definitely be interesting.
Oh,
Mike Sharp.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know how much longer he's here, but it can't be very long.
No, it definitely cannot be. Talking about baby faces, but who was just here as baby faces under odd circumstances, but man, wouldn't they be a great fit? Austin Idol and Tommy Rich.
It would have worked if they wanted to pay all of them. Man, what a top of the, talk about wanting to draw some money. Now that would have, having those baby faces and those heels in the territory at the same time, didn't matter what you put on the undercard. You would have had 3 guaranteed main events every night.
6-man tag match. You got Savage, Dr. D, and Bruiser Brody against Lawler, Idol, and Rich. Come on.
Yeah, Kareem Muhammad could have picked up the scraps. There's a lot of stuff.
He could have wrestled all those.
Everybody else.
He could have beat Constance Ashley and David Haskins in a 3-on-1 match or something.
Or the Battens.
Or Oski, because we're obviously not doing shit with him either. So.
Well, you talked about Mike Sharp turning face. You know how easy that is. I'm a heel. No, you're a face. Okay, like you said. So
ride with those guys. Oh, okay.
Okay.
No, okay.
Hey, guys, got any soap? So we got one more show here on May the 3rd, Greenfield, Tennessee. So we saw Lawler and Savage headlining likely in Blytheville. So over in Greenfield at the high school, it's the Fabs versus the PYTs. Also, the Battens are there, and Jerry Oski on the card in Greenfield as we close out the week of the end of April, the beginning of May.
Yep, I don't know. Like I say, things are looking good on the heel side, but I got some concerns. I got some concerns on the babyface side. We'll see what they come up with.
I don't know what they're doing here. It's going to be very confusing to see what they bring up against these heels to have competitive matches on the house shows moving forward. Lots of great top level, like I said, heels. Like you said, waiting to see what they do, what the answer is on the babyface side. Do they have an answer? Is there anyone out there right now, free agency, that you could bring in to match up against people at this level?
And had Lawler not been ready to come back off his vacation that he got pushed into, they'd really be up shit creek. Yeah,
no doubt about it. I guess, like you said, they could have forked out over the money and said, Tommy, you want to stay a few more weeks, or Austin Idol, Dolan? Do you want to hang around for a few weeks? But I guess Austin got paid so much for that Bobby Colt match that you don't need to.
I was going to say, they blew their wad on that Bobby Colt match. They couldn't afford to pay him to come back and wrestle anybody big time.
Meanwhile, Bobby Colt's back on some of the secondary towns, so that's at least for now. Maybe this week only, but yeah, that's gonna do it, man. That's another week of Memphis in the books. Pretty easy in and out, and wow, it's gonna be a very interesting May, no doubt about it. We know Randy Savage's time is drawing near before he heads off to the World Wrestling Federation. Who's he gonna drop the belt to? And spoiler alert, he might drop the belt more than once before he leaves town. So gonna be very interesting to see what goes on with the Macho Man. How long will David Schultz stay? Kareem Muhammad, for that matter. So lots of questions to be answered. And what's going to happen with Bruiser Brody?
I mean, if you're Jerry Lawler, can you think of 3 more wild card heels than Randy Savage, Bruiser Brody, and Dr. D, David Schultz? I mean, wow. 3 guys that you never know what the hell any of those guys are going to do. Lawler's got to be a little nervous and minding his P's and Q's with these dudes.
Oh, I don't know if Tennessee required you to put insurance or deposits down, but with those 3 guys in the same venues, on the same cards, boy, if they only knew, you might need a little extra insurance with those guys coming to town.
Absolutely. It should be interesting nonetheless. I'm excited to see where things go. I'm actually pretty fired up to watch the next episode to see who they're going to pull out, because they got to do something pretty quick. I mean, that you're not going to come back to the Coliseum with too many cards as light as this last one was and draw any crowds.
Yeah, Speedy Talltree just ain't going to get it done here.
Absolutely not.
Wherever
Nor this jobber Bolo.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up here this week as far as the regional wrestling program goes, the Memphis 85. Hopefully we can do this again a lot quicker than this time around. I know I got a lot of new projects going on, but we got to keep fitting these in. These are really fun to go back and watch, and I just finished up UWF 86. I got one more episode of Georgia 81 with Jamie Ward, and then that'll be done and in the books as well. So Memphis 85 is my only continuous weekly episodic, I'm quoting Michael Cole here, television program to watch and review with you. And it's just a fun time to do Memphis in general.
But man, you've got some fun stuff that's joining the regional wrestling lineup that I'm really excited about and looking forward to checking out. The 77 show, we've already heard the first one, and man, y'all started it off with a bang. That's going to be cool. St. Louis, I'm looking forward to learning about St. Louis. And like I said, I'm already been kind of digging into California on my own accord. So I know Vandal Drummond is a guy who is quite knowledgeable firsthand of California. So, man, I'm looking forward to those. I know you're going to have a lot of fun doing them.
Yeah, Steve was great. You know, he was, it's not often I ask for help. You know that, Gene. I mean, I appreciate help. I certainly like for, everybody to do their own homework as well as I do mine. But Steve was somebody I said, if you could draw me an outline of how you want this to be told. And he had it done in less than 48 hours. Very well done, very easy to read through. And I had my research. Steve has done a ridiculous amount of research on his end. And, he grew up and he lived this era, not saying he knew everything that was going on behind the scenes, but he can relate to a lot of the talent and memories and things of that nature as well. So it's just, it was fun getting things going. We dropped that the beginning of the year. And then, of course, Vandal Drummond last week, talking, just getting to know Vandal really and some of the stuff he grew up on in the 70s. We talked about the peaks and valleys throughout the 70s in order to set the stage for the decline from 80 to 82, the demise of Los Angeles. And we talked about the Bionic Man, the man with the bionic arm, Lars Anderson. Could you believe an Anderson would do a ridiculous gimmick where he had his arm remote controlled?
That's true. And, it makes a huge difference, man, when somebody's fired up and looking forward to doing this stuff and they're really into the topic and they're knowledgeable on the topic, like Steve and Vandal Drummond are. It makes a huge difference. And I'm not knocking anybody that's done it before. Everybody's been great, but I'm just saying, they bring a lot to the table and they're excited to bring it to the table. And, Steve has been our go-to guy, when we have these questions. He's always, think of how many updates you've told on this show of things that, he's brought to us that he either knew or he went and found out and let us know. So it's going to be fun times on regional wrestling as always. And I'm excited. And, man, I hope people give a shot to the
Super
the
fan?
VIP.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's getting late. But yeah, check out the VIP because, man, me and Ray are having a great time doing these Coliseum video casts. I really enjoy those. But more importantly, check out the Puro Wrestling Academy video cast. Man, you and Dan are doing just tremendous. I'm having a great time watching those videos. Getting to watch those matches without Japanese commentary and with insight from you guys is just it's a completely different experience than any I've had in the past watching Japanese wrestling and going, why are these guys wrestling? I don't know. Who's that guy? What's happening right here? You know, you guys are able to provide a backstory, and it's really cool. I hope people check it out because you'll enjoy it, even if you're not a huge fan of Japanese wrestling. Just, man, the names, that the matches you guys are picking out here, getting to see Gorilla Monsoon in action in Japan and Jack Briscoe matches and the Destroyer, that's somebody else I've been reading up on lately and studying up on. And, he was in the big tag team match on the most recent one, and just really great stuff.
Yeah, we've done a lot. The Funks are coming back on the program if they haven't already. By the time this drops, we're going to see more Terry and Dory Funk teaming up. We've got a lot going on. Pro Wrestling Academy, those video casts, I'm in heaven just being able to sit there and call it with Dan. Obviously, he knows the context of what's going on, and we work together. I do a lot of research for those myself, and I bring the notes as well as Dan. But, man, just being able to sit there and just go back and be forced to watch such fun, old-school wrestling and in such pristine quality, complete matches, guys in their primes that, again, in the United States, they didn't really save the footage. So to see that much of Jack Briscoe in world title matches has been a true blessing because I didn't get to see a whole lot of Jack, in his prime as world champion as far as video footage out there. So lots of great stuff on the patreon.com/WrestleCopia talking about, as Gene said, the VIP superfan tier. Now we do have the all access tier, $5, get you all sorts of gifts if you guys just are looking to donate and help support the cause. However, that VIP superfan tier for just a few bucks more get you the video cast, me and Gene together, just fooling around, having fun, or the Coliseum video cast, reliving nostalgia, going back in time. Yeah, we'll add a little context to things, but just a lot of funny nonsense in between as well. And it's great times. You guys are just looking to have fun, sit down with a couple of people and have some laughs. Coliseum video cast is where it's at. Me and Dan just want to go back and watch great wrestling, and maybe not so great sometimes, depending on who's in the ring, but lots of fun times there. And Monday Warfare, the video cast coming soon. Raw versus Nitro, the Monday Night War in video cast form very, very soon, and going to have some complimentary pay-per-view video casts to go along with those. And we're always planning things, and let's not forget Survivor Series 88, not too far away.
Oh, yes. Me and you have talked quite a bit off the air. What a huge fan both of us are of that particular Survivor Series. So, yes, I'm very excited for that one. And just I want to add, folks, beyond just the video cast, the freaking notes. You take Ray's highly detailed show notes, and you combine that with Dan's highly detailed show notes, and it's like a freaking book for some of these episodes of the the Pro Wrestling Academy podcast. That alone is worth the price of admission, folks. There's so much information and results and background there. Just that would be worth the price of the VIP package. Then you get the video cast on top of it. It's the best value in podcasts out there. And give your money to a podcast. Not company, a network is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I'm poor with words this late at night.
That's quite all right, man.
Give your money to a podcast network that needs it. I know there's a lot of guys out there that get a lot of money, and they had a lot of money when they came to the table. And WrestleCopia, man, all the work that Ray puts into this stuff and the quality of the content, it certainly helps out more than you can know.
Well, I appreciate you promoting the brand. And Gene, he's been a big supporter of the WrestleCopia brand for well over a year now, and certainly appreciate you being a part. You've added so much. Of course, Dangerous Conversations with Doug Gilbert, and now Tommy Rich has joined that show, and lots of great feedback there. People love, listening to Tommy and Doug, who were a tag team more often than not throughout the night, whenever they were together anyway. That's how I remember USWA in the 1990s. Every time I turned on my TV screen anyway, and that's always a great show every week, and you guys didn't even take the holidays off. So very loyal to getting the podcasts out there, our Gene and the boys, and Also, of course, the Retro Wrestling Review with the P3 Radio guys. I know Brian Trammell's been on there recently making some replacement spots. He calls himself a pinch hitter, if you will. And he's been on there recently covering USWA 93. And you guys are getting so close to Bret Hart and Vince McMahon and all that good stuff again there with the WWF crossover. And Chris Adams recently. So it's just like here in 85. You never know who's going to show up in Memphis.
Absolutely. We're watching a show that week, and here comes Chris Adams strolling out to confront his ex-wife, but as far as they told it on TV, his wife, and things were off to the races with him and Brian. He comes over and slugs Brian with one of the stiffest punches I've ever seen thrown in the Memphis studio, and we're off and running with that feud.
Whacked him like a flight attendant, man.
Damn right he did. So, folks, if you hadn't checked out the Retro Wrestling Review, give us a shot. We try to have fun with it. And 1993 Memphis wrestling is just as unpredictable and fly by the seat of their pants as the 1985 is. Sometimes even more, I feel like. And then, of course, Doug and Tommy, man, they're having a great time doing that show. Especially Tommy. We had him on as a guest, and he had such a good time that he immediately, started calling Doug like, "Hey, man, why don't you let me be on there every week?" And so we decided, hell, why not? And man, it's working out great. And they love when the listeners send in questions. They love answering those. And Tommy, talks about how all the memories it jars loose for him and things that he didn't even know that he remembered that comes to mind based off of questions that aren't necessarily going to come up in the topics we have lined up, but somebody asks you this question out of left field, and all of a sudden he's thinking about Southern Championship Wrestling from Georgia in 1987, and it brings up all kinds of stuff. So appreciate folks sending them in, and keep those coming, because like I say, they love getting those.
Well, we might as well do full circle here. You talk about the Q&As and talk about the legendary talent. Bob Roop, recently did a 2-part Q&A show. We did answering questions, and finally, one of the I believe it was a listener by the name of Buddy Landell's Cocaine, who wrote into, and he's sent questions before. So this guy's been lurking around WrestleCopia for a while. I do get a kick out of the name. I don't think it's his real name, but Buddy Landell's Cocaine.
I'm going to need to see your driver's license, sir. I don't know if I believe that.
He finally asked Bob to share the story about Lex Luger and the Junkyard Dog having that infamous fight in the locker rooms in Brantford, Ontario back in 1990. You see, Bob was the agent at the time for that show, and Bob was the only man in the locker room with those two when it was going down. So it was Bob who saved Lex's eyeball from being ripped out by the JYD. And so we recently told that story, and he talked a little bit about the original Sheik and so much more. So it's always a good time. And of course, the Wrestling Memory Grenade. Now, you always aspire to have higher numbers than you do the week before, but let's be real, guys. It's up and down, right? Depending on the topic, depending on the week, what's going on in the world. And so just recently, we peaked our very highest numbers, 24 hours, first day of the posting, thanks to Ted DiBiase trying to purchase Hercules as a slave. I'm sure that's what did it. Maybe it was the Mr. Perfect vignettes. I don't know, but just reached our highest goal ever on the first day numbers with that show. And of course, John Paz just celebrated 10 years of the Two-Man Power Trip podcast. He joined special guest. We promised special guests on the Wrestling Memory Grenade in 2025, talking 1988. And we just talked all kinds of great conversation about the talent from that era. So it's really getting going there. The Grenade, we're going to have more special guests coming. Not going to name any names until they actually record, because you know how that works. But we got other people planned for the show very soon. So just a lot going on across the board at WrestleCopia.
I mean, that's really cool. I mean, I know you've always done a great job with the Grenade doing it on your own, but I know personally it's a lot of fun to have somebody else there to bounce off of and to talk to about. And up to now, you've been able to talk all this WWF by yourself, but you hadn't really had anybody to conversate with on there. So, and man, what a great guest to get right out of the chute. So yeah, I'm excited to hear that. And, I'm excited to hear that, you hit, because like you said, a Grenade's been around a while. I mean, that's the anchor of the WrestleCopia podcast network. So when you're still out there breaking records, that's a good sign. That means new people are coming and people are still just as excited or more excited than ever. So that's awesome to hear, man.
Yeah, everything's going pretty good. I'm not going to pat myself on the back or call anything great, because you know what follows that. Something's going to So we won't do that, but we will say that we're having a great time. And most of all, I encourage everybody to go over to Patreon and try that VIP Superfan tier. If I didn't run it myself, I would get it myself because there's, like you said, Gene, there's just so much coming the way of the video cast in the weeks and months to come. So looking forward to doing it with you, with Dan, and anybody else that joins in. But right now we're going to wrap things up, guys. We appreciate you listening to another episode of Regional Rasslin', and we'll be back before too long to see what happens here in the month of May.
Yes, there should be all sorts of fun things going on. So please make sure you join us. I know it's been a while, but it wasn't because we didn't want to do a Memphis 85 episode, just because there's been holidays and all this other stuff going on. But we're getting back in the swing of things. And like Ray said, you'll have one back sooner than you had this time, we promise.